the more doubt you might feel about yourself. And this topic, why high-performing people doubt themselves, can seem like a paradox, right? It's not less, it's more doubt that comes with the higher levels of competence. And if you have been gaining experience, you are leading teams, you're managing really complex environments, you're making really high stakes decisions, you may have been thinking, well, by now I should feel way more confident. You followed all the rules when you were building your career, right? You got the credentials that everyone told you to get. You built that career that feels secure. You are trusted in what you do. So why does any next step feel really heavy? Feel like it's weighing on you like the world? Why are we still overthinking things when we are applying for new jobs, or maybe we're pitching a new idea that we have, or there's a big decision that needs to be made and we delay it and delay it and delay it because it feels too big? Or maybe you're thinking about pivoting and that thought alone just feels very scary. So today I really want to name something important. If you're feeling those doubts at those higher levels, it is not a sign that you don't have what you need. For you, it's actually a sign that you are seeing a lot more. You're seeing a lot more complexity. You're seeing a lot more self-awareness and knowing yourself and what you're great at and what you're not great at. You know, I talk all the time about things that are weaknesses for me. And it's often a sign of that clarity. And there's actually some interesting research that helps explain these feelings. One of my colleagues mentioned in a post this week, thank you, Cornelia, there's this concept called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And at a very simple level, it shows you that when you are new at something, you often overestimate your ability. You don't yet know what you don't know. So when something is new, there's a lot of unknowns, right? But when someone gains that skill and experience, when you've had that experience under your belt, you can start to feel the doubt coming on because you know that things are more complicated than they might seem. You know that situations and new environments are very nuanced, and there's a lot of learning that happens in that process. You can see risks before they're even there, or you can see those trade-offs that you might need to make. So in other words, beginners can feel wildly confident at times, but also if you're an expert and you have that experience, you might feel more cautious in certain environments. And at times, if you're in a high-performing mindset, if you are a high performer, you can fall into that second category where you have the doubt, not because you're incompetent, you're doubting what's happening or how you're feeling about it because you understand it more. You understand the lay of the land when things feel uncertain. And that level of awareness is really a sign of experience. But we don't want it to become a stifling thing. We don't want it to make you hesitate on opportunities or decisions that really should be moving forward. We don't want you to hold yourself back, essentially. So even though we know and we can see, you may know how a policy is going to impact people, or one hiring decision can really be a make or break for the entire team, or how strategy is being utilized and how that has a ripple effect on everything in the organization, including potentially patient outcomes. You know, your expansive vision that you have can feel a lot like self-doubt. But what I'm here to tell you is that it's actually the depth of knowledge and experience that you have that you are bringing to the table. So you are probably someone who is constantly resetting the bar for yourself, right? You're constantly moving that bar because when you hit a milestone, you hit an accomplishment, you might even bypass celebrating it all. I know for my clients, I always ask them when they hit a new milestone or goal or small win, like, how are you going to celebrate this? And sometimes that thought hasn't even crossed their mind at all. Sometimes it's, move on to the next thing, hit the next checkbox. Sometimes it's, well, that's just what's expected of me, right? They're thinking that, how is this special? Why should I be celebrating this milestone? Or maybe you just accomplished, leading your team through something, and you're thinking, well, that's just my job. That's part of my job, right? And you neutralize that you are actually really successful. And instead of stopping to celebrate or reflect, you just raise the bar for yourself. When you raise that bar, you create this gap of potentially self-doubt because you just increased your playing field. You just leveled up your playing field in the arena. So it makes sense why these feelings can come about. But what you're labeling as self-doubt, or what we are calling self-doubt, I want to also say it's your intentional care for the work that you do. It's your self-accountability. You're holding yourself to a high standard. It's your thoughtfulness. You are taking intentional time and thinking through what you're doing. It's your integrity. It's your values showing up at work. But we don't want that to bleed over into hesitation. When you care deeply about the work that you're doing, that's productive. That is helpful. But where you can get stuck is if you start hesitating. And let me give you a few examples of how I see this show up. Sometimes we over-prepare. And I talked a little bit about over-preparation this week and last week, but sometimes we over-prepare in the face of that uncertainty. We seek out more certifications. We do more research. We analyze more information. We revise that email. We revise that slide set. We revise that writing piece one more time because it feels safe to keep working on something, gathering more information, validating our skill set by seeking one more certification. Feels like that's the thing that we should do. And at times, that is the thing we should do. But at other times, it's not. I would ask you to step back and think, is this next action that I'm taking, is it actually sharpening a skill? Is it making the thing I'm working on any better? Or is it postponing it? Is it just delaying your progress? And I'm not saying that shoddy work is acceptable at all. But what is it that you're working on, and how is it contributing ultimately to your performance? Is it actually leveling you up, or is it just holding you back and taking more time away from your progress? Another thing I see a lot, waiting to meet every requirement on that job description. I talked about this yesterday. Oh, there was an amazing, amazing virtual event with FIP, the Women's Summit, the first one. I had the great honor and pleasure of speaking at that event and also being with women from across the world. And we talked a lot about the biggest things that actually showed up in the word cloud about how people were feeling or what the biggest challenges that they faced on a regular basis. And the two biggest things they said were imposter syndrome and confidence. And that tells me that we have a lot of work to do in supporting each other. When we wait to apply for 100%, 110% of the job requirements, we're missing out on opportunities that we are ready for. We have the opportunity to grow and learn that 110% of qualifications. We don't have to wait to step up until we feel ready. When have you ever felt ready for something that is new to you in your life? Has that ever happened? I don't think it's ever happened for me. After you commit to learning, growth, believing in yourself and your potential, that confidence is going to show up. That willingness to grow and continue learning is going to be evident. So when we see those discrepancies in the statistics that show that women tend to wait until they meet 100% of those job qualifications relative to male counterparts who will wait until about 60% of those qualifications are met. We can bridge that gap for each other. Another thing that I see sometimes is second guessing ourselves even when things are going well. Even when things are going well. So when you have that next accomplishment, when you achieve something that you've set your sights on, instead of celebrating and internalizing that success, maybe you're questioning it. Was I just lucky? Can I do that again? When you ask yourself those questions, you are internally creating self-doubt. You're internally creating an environment where you're holding yourself to this box where you're playing small. So when you have that success, how are you integrating it? And sometimes this is really helpful. This is a really helpful time where a mentor or a coach can reflect back to you and say, do you realize what you just accomplished? Have you ever stopped to take a look at your CV? Have you ever looked at it and said, wow, I've had a lot of contributions and impact on the world? So that is one other thing. One other thing that comes to mind is when folks stay in this mode of just observing what's going on and not taking action for fear of being exposed or, advancing in the face of uncertainty. And so instead of actually doing the work themselves, they're seeing what happens around them. Well, how many times was this successful for someone else? Or maybe I'm hesitating because I'm being strategic here. I'm waiting for the perfect time. Maybe I don't want to be exposed. I don't want my weaknesses to be seen by the world. And so we stay stuck in this observation mode instead of actually taking action and seeing what happens. And it makes sense. Our training was this way, right? We didn't have a lot of environments to take action safely and fail. And, I was actually talking with my daughter last night. She's 9 years old, my oldest, and her friend who's 10. We were getting ready to wrap up. They were at goalie practice for soccer. And, kids say things sometimes that really make you step back and think, because they're observing and absorbing the world so quickly in their growing. And my daughter's friend said something that really stood out to me. She said, I really like soccer practice and coaches because they give you this space to make mistakes. They give you this environment where you can make those mistakes and grow and learn new skills. And I just had to pause and say, wow, you are so right. What if we always had an environment where we were in that coaching mindset? We had a coach next to us every day, who was really helping us to see that it is safe to fail, that it is safe to learn and grow, that it is safe to have growth mindset, and that we can always get better in those environments. So the wisdom of our young people just made me step back yesterday. And, they were comparing being on the field for coaching in soccer versus in the classroom. And it also made me think about what we're doing in education overall. So that's probably another topic for another day. But there's so much to dig into with that, and considering how those societal environments and expectations continue throughout our lives, but start at such an early age. So as we wrap up today, I'd love for you to think about and let me know, where does doubt usually show up with you? Can you move with it? Can you when that doubt tends to show up, can you decide that you can still move forward, even if you don't feel 100% certain about how things are going to work out? And where can you do that in your next week? Where are those opportunities where you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you can harness that doubt that's coming up for you to still move with it without letting it stop you in your tracks? And so if this is resonating with you, this is exactly the type of work that I love helping people with. And if you want to talk more one-on-one about your specific situation, just send me a DM. I would absolutely love to hear what's going on for you and how I can best support you. I hope you have an amazing weekend ahead. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you here next week. Take care.